Okay, let's unpack this. We're doing our deep dive today, and we're really zeroing in on a specific set of sources you've got here. They
Mm.
cover some pretty recent comments reportedly from Donald Trump about the Russia-Ukraine war, and crucially, the reaction from the Kremlin presented in these same sources.
Exactly. So the material is basically excerpts, discussing statements about Putin, about Zelenskyy, and the conflict itself.
Right, and our mission really is just to quickly pull out the main points. What perspectives are being highlighted in these specific sources for you?
Simple as that. Get to the core of what this material presents.
Okay, so setting the scene. This source material places Trump's comments right after some significant attacks on Ukraine.
Yeah, talks about massive attacks, 3 nights running.
And it even mentions what it calls the largest drone barrage since the war began on May 26th.
That's right. The figures cited are, I think, 355 drones and 9 cruise missiles. So, quite intense.
And it's in that context, according to the source, that we get this direct quote attributed to Trump about Putin. He reportedly said, "Something has happened to him, Putin. He has gone absolutely crazy."
Wow, yeah. Strong language.
Very strong. And the source adds more from Trump, apparently saying, "I've always said that he wants all of Ukraine, not just a piece of it.
Okay.
And maybe that's proving to be right, but if he does, it will lead to the downfall of Russia." So quite a prediction there, too.
Right. And then what's pretty striking, based on this source, is how it presents the Kremlin's response.
Mm.
It specifically brings up Dmitry Peskov, the spokesman, and it notes Peskov actually thanked the American people and Trump for some help earlier on.
Oh, interesting. For help with peace negotiations, was it?
Yeah, that's what the source says, help at the beginning of peace talks. But then it highlights Peskov giving this specific explanation for reactions like Trump's,
Okay, what was that?
suggesting they might just be down to emotional overload. That's the term used.
Emotional overload.
Yeah, the source quotes Peskov. This is a very crucial moment, which is associated, of course, with the emotional overload of everyone, absolutely, and with emotional reactions. So kind of framing it as a high-stress response.
Huh. Okay. So that's the Putin side and the Kremlin reaction in this material.
Yeah.
What about Zelenskyy? The source mentions comments on him, too,
There
right?
is, yeah.
Trump is quoted again, reportedly stating Zelenskyy isn't helping his country.
Mm.
And adding, everything out of his mouth causes problems. I don't like it, and it better stop. Pretty blunt.
Very direct criticism there, as presented in the source.
One more point from this material. It
Yeah.
also mentions Trump saying, Washington is, and this is a quote, definitely considering the possibility of imposing sanctions against Russia.
Right, following those attacks that were mentioned earlier.
Exactly.
So if you sort of step back and look at how this source puts these pieces together, what you really see highlighted is, well, Trump's very sharp criticism.
Yeah, they're both leaders.
Yeah. Both leaders using really strong words like absolutely crazy. And then put right alongside that, you have the source presenting the Kremlin's view.
The counterframing.
Exactly. The counterframing that attributes reactions like that to emotional overload. And, we have to stress, this whole dive is purely based on what's in these particular source excerpts you shared.
Absolutely. Just sticking to the material. So quick recap for you.
Yeah.
The main things this source draws your attention to are Trump's reported view of Putin as crazy, maybe wanting all of Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
His harsh words for Zelenskyy, this mention of possible sanctions being considered.
Right.
And then the Kremlin's perspective presented here that these kinds of reactions are maybe due to emotional overload.
Yeah, that covers the key points highlighted. And it kind of leaves us with something interesting to think about based purely on how this source presents things.
Okay, what's that?
Well, just consider how sources like this can choose to use very specific, often really emotionally charged language.
Like absolutely crazy or emotional overload.
Wow. Exactly those phrases. When they're describing these complex international situations, what does focusing specifically on these documented comments as presented here tell you about the different ways events can be framed or portrayed according to this particular material? It's something to mull over.